Look around your garden. Those bare retaining walls, the gaps between your paving stones, or that sterile rock feature don't have to stay that way. You can cover them in a vibrant, aged layer of green. You do this using a moss slurry, a living paint. Instead of waiting for moss to find your rocks naturally, you mix a batch of spores and paint them exactly where you want them to grow. To master this, we'll cover 3 stages: selecting the specific moss for your site, mixing a precise adhesive recipe, and establishing the maintenance routine required for long-term survival. Once you master the slurry technique, you stop waiting on nature and start actively controlling your landscape's microecosystems. Step 1 is sourcing your moss. Moss is not a one-size-fits-all solution. The sunlight and moisture levels of your site must dictate the species you choose. This shows the contrast. Woodland species are deep green and fern-like to capture limited light in moist shade. Sun-tolerant species are silvery and compact, designed to reflect heat on exposed stone. This distinction is critical because the slurry recipe we are learning today is strictly for shade-loving and woodland mosses. Applying a dairy-based slurry to sun-tolerant species creates a trap. In direct heat, the dairy will sour and rot the moss before it can activate its heat survival mechanisms. Ignoring these microclimates guarantees failure before the ingredients even reach the blender. The golden ratio for the slurry is 2 parts live moss, 2 parts water, and 1 part buttermilk, though beer is an effective substitute. The active cultures and acidity in the buttermilk feed the moss during the stressful transition period, providing a temporary nutrient boost. If you are applying this to a vertical wall or sheer rock, you need an organic binder. Adding 1 raw egg or a scoop of potter's clay provides the tackiness required to defy gravity. Put the ingredients in a blender and pulse them. You are aiming for a thick, chunky consistency, similar to a milkshake. If the mixture is too thick, add a splash of water. If it's too runny, add another handful of moss. Achieving this specific physical chemistry in the blender ensures the slurry adheres to the surface and survives the first few rains. To apply the paint, use a brush or spatula to aggressively work the slurry into the porous crevices of the rocks or between your paving stones. This forces the plant into contact with the stone so it can deploy its rhizoids. These are microscopic, root-like threads that anchor the moss by wrapping around the jagged edges of the stone. For ground-level applications, like soil or pavers, you must gently press or walk on the applied moss. This physical pressure forces the slurry into the substrate, immediately stimulating the rhizoids to grip the earth. This application process creates a permanent mechanical bond, fusing the plant to the stone surface. Once applied, the slurry enters its most vulnerable stage. It must be misted daily and can never be allowed to go bone dry while it establishes. Long-term, the needs change. Mature moss requires consistent moisture, but it also needs time to breathe. Staying constantly soggy will eventually lead to mold. You must also defend the site from weeds. A moist moss bed is a perfect nursery for invasive seeds, so pull them by hand early to protect the delicate moss base. Keep the surface clear of debris. Use a gentle whisk broom or blower to remove heavy leaves, never a harsh metal rake. Moss requires direct sunlight to photosynthesize, and a blanket of fallen leaves will quickly suffocate and kill the new growth. Survival depends more on defending the moss's access to light and space than it does on a rigorous watering schedule. Manage your expectations early on. For the first few weeks, the slurry will look like a messy, brown, unimpressive paste, but eventually the spores activate. As you see here, the dull paste rapidly swells and fluffs outward into a vibrant, 3-dimensional green carpet. By combining a few handfuls of moss with common household ingredients, you've created a permanent, living architectural feature. We've included a helpful list of regional moss species in the description. Share your own slurry projects in the comments below.